John was a normal guy, or at least that's what he said. Looks good, a decent job, friends he could trust. He was relaxed, calm, and never lost his temper. Until that day. "Die, you bastard son of a bitch!" John snarled, tearing the head of a Xantrax pirate with a lion-killing grip. His companions were petrified. The Xantrax had been about to shoot them with a laser pistol, but the kindest guy in the office had sneaked up behind it and ripped its head off. Then they saw something else. Rage. A deep, colossal, brutal rage. A fury that burned in John's eyes like a storm held back for years. "Run to headquarters," he ordered, his voice chilling, as icy as PAX 9's worst winter. "The Xantrax are psychically linked. They already know this one died. They're coming." No one moved. No one said anything. "Faster!" he roared. The fire already coursed through his veins. The past hit him hard. The pain, the cold, the hunger. The slave brand seared into his back began to throb. He remembered his parents' faces as the Xantrax killed them. He remembered the executioner's cackles. He remembered the chains, the sale, and the slave market. He remembered the Colosseum. He remembered the struggle when he didn't know if he would live or die. He remembered the day he escaped, when he killed his master, when he slit the throats of 10 Xantrax in a night of fury. He remembered stealing the ship. He remembered his friends who helped him escape. He remembered he was the only one who survived. His arrival in human space, the new identity, the disguise of normalcy. And now they were back. Maybe they weren't coming for him, but he could kill more Xantrax. He wasn't about to miss the chance. John took a deep breath. He picked up the laser pistol and the hunting knife from the dead Xantrax. His senses were still as sharp as the day he stopped being a slave. Pistol in one hand, knife in the other. And a smile, a sincere smile, born of the most primitive happiness. Revenge. Then they started to arrive. A curious thing about the Xantrax is their psychic connection. They functioned almost like a hive mind, capable of executing complex plans with surgical precision, but that came at a price. If you caused one enough pain before killing it, the rest felt it. Not for long, just a few seconds. But sometimes a few seconds are enough to unleash hell. John learned this when one of his captors hit himself, and the others around him flinched simultaneously. The first one appeared around the corner, tall, slender, with that metallic blue skin and lidless eyes. John threw the knife straight at its face. Clean hit. Eyes. Scream. Pain. He shot the second in one of its long legs, shattering the outer bone. The Xantrax fell to the ground, screaming. The rest staggered, stunned by the shared echo of suffering. And then, the chaos began. John charged them with the pistol still smoking and his gaze blaring. That look no longer belonged to an office worker. That look had been born in the darkness of cages. He knew why they had come. He understood the Xantrax language. They were saying things about hostages, about ransoms, and about payments. They weren't after him. Their plan was to extort the company John worked for. It seemed there were only a few of them, stealth suits and light weapons. But that meant nothing now. Those who came for John would die. The first Xantrax fell with the blade embedded in his face, but John was no longer there. He had leapt aside, rolling between overturned tables, while the second alien's laser burned the air where his head had been a second before. Shot. A red flash. The second Xantrax screamed as it took the hit to the leg, its outer bone crunching like glass under a hammer. The others hesitated. The psychic connection transmitted the pain to them, and for an instant their movements were clumsy, like puppets with tangled strings. It was all John needed. Slash! The knife sliced the third one's neck, streams of bluish blood arcing through the air. Tear! His claws closed around the fourth's arm, twisting it until the inner bone, fragile as ceramic, exploded under the pressure. Shot! The laser pierced the skull of a fifth, but the overheated weapon burned John's palm, blistering his hand. It didn't matter. He held it with blood and pure hatred. The Xantrax adapted. They advanced in a semicircle formation, blocking the exits. One of them, larger, wielded a vibro knife that hummed like a swarm of insects. John dodged the first slash, but the blade opened a gash in his side. Hot blood. Familiar pain. Stab. He plunged the knife into the giant's armpit, the weak point he'll remember from the slave markets, and twisted. The Xantrax howled, and the wave of agony paralyzed the others. Shot, shot, shot. 3 hairs exploded in sequence, but the weapon finally blew up in his hands, leaving his fingers charred. He didn't stop. He grabbed the vibro knife from the corpse and lunged at the rest. He was no longer a man, but a whirlwind of metal and flesh. Every movement was efficient, brutal, and learned in the arenas of Malvia 5. A spin to open a belly, a low kick to break a knee, and a headbutt to shatter a flat nose. The Xantrax fell, but they kept coming. Until the pain betrayed them. John had left the giant alive, writhing on the ground with the knife still buried. Every groan of the monster echoed in the hive mind, clouding the reflexes of its companions. And John exploited every spasm, every hesitation. John wasn't sure how much time had passed. A couple of minutes? Hours? Around him, some 32 Xantrax bodies lay piled like discarded meat. His arm looked like it had been put through an industrial shredder. The laser pistol, overloaded beyond its capacity, had left his hand covered in open, oozing blisters. His hand charred and several fingers missing. He had more wounds than intact skin. The blood he'd lost seemed impossible to survive. And yet, he smiled. He walked back as best he could. Every step was a battle, every breath a sacrifice. His legs trembled, his ribs ached. Everything in him screamed to stop. And then he fell. The world tilted and threw him to the ground with a dull thud. Face down, his face in the dust and blood, he asked himself a simple question. Am I going to die? He got no answer, but he never stopped smiling. Half an hour later, the special forces arrived, but it was already too late for John. He lay on the ground, surrounded by an ocean of Xantrax corpses. An impossible scene. A single fallen human. All employees are alive. No one expected something like this. Everyone anticipated a massacre. The silence was thick. The rescuers didn't speak. They only watched, with respect, with awe. "He was always a good man," said Martin, one of his colleagues. His voice choked. "I don't know why, or how he sacrificed himself for us." Tears rolled shamelessly down his cheeks. "I'll always remember his will." "He was particularly quiet," added Carolina. His boss, arms crossed, unable to hold her gaze on the body. "I never thought him capable of this. He saved us at the cost of his life. I saw him tremble just like us. But when he strangled that first Xantrax, when he saw he could break it, he knew he could do more. And he did." "He was my best friend," whispered Maribel, an unopened beer still in her hand, as if she'd forgotten to put it down. "Sometimes we go for a drink after work. I think he saved us because he knew he had nothing to lose. He had no family, no wife, no children. So he decided to be our shield." No one knew. They only saw his smile, intact amidst the blood, as if he had finally found peace.